All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast, and it's a happy Sunday. Um, we got what we wanted. We took care of business. We swept the White Sox, and we're a game and a half back, depending on what happens tonight as the Braves are playing, and Phillies, Braves and Phillies are playing. So it depends on what happens. We could be a game out. Things are looking good. Things change in just a few days. But before we get to it, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let us know how you're feeling. Give us your comments. And Victor, how you doing?
Doing great, man. We did what we needed to do to get the job done, and we just took care of business. So, can't complain here. Like we said, we still hold our own destiny as long as we continue to win. So let's ride this winning streak as long as it goes, because honestly, these Braves don't look like they're falling off. The San Diego Padres are playing good baseball. It's going to be up to us. We're going to be the ones to push ourselves into a playoff position. We can't rely on these scoreboards to be scoreboard watching. We got to go on a run, and this was a great way to start that off.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. We took care of business, but as you can see, they were all fairly competitive. At least the last two were, and because they're there's major league ball players on the other side, regardless of they don't want to give up those wins and tie the six or surpass the 62 Mets in losses. At the end of the day, they're trying to win. So we gutted it out. There are a couple things that we could talk about. We'll probably talk about it in the concerns, but let's get into it. Let's break it down. Game one, McGill, for the first two innings, gave us a heart attack. Looked like typical McGill, but we gave him the lead, and it looked like he started settling down a little bit, started pitching that two seamer more, that sinker. So he got some contact, and we took care of business in game one, but it looked dicey for the first couple of innings.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. McGill gave us a classic McGill start. He settled down, and honestly, I'm glad that he wasn't giving up more runs to just give up the one run in that first inning. It was a good sign for him, but obviously, he's just still not. He doesn't have the control. He's always putting us in a heart attack position, which sucks for him because he's not able to go in for length. He might have only had one walk, but that really didn't feel like a one walk kind of start with him only going 5.1 innings, because he was up to he threw 20 or like 45 pitches in the first two innings, it seemed like. And so it was just very frustrating to see that. Obviously he probably lost his job for going into this stretch of baseball. Alex Young was recalled, and so I think this was his opportunity to show if he can be a major league ball player, and it just didn't show up in this start. But shout out to Adam Ottavino for going out there and continuing to show us that he's a major league player. This might be his last season in the major leagues, but he's really fighting to keep his job, and he's done just that with another scoreless outing with two strikeouts, and it's great to see him, Reed Garrett, Phil Maton all get back to where they need to be, and especially our main man Edwin Diaz continuing to do Edwin Diaz things and strike out the side. So overall, I love the pitching here. Aside from the scares from McGill that we got, and the bats showed up to play. They were able to give us some runs to get us the win here.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you kind of touched on something that I want to get into in this game, and it was Diaz pitching in this game. Obviously, third game in a row. Some people said we scored that extra run, and why have him in the game? And at the end of the day, you start a guy and he's hot, right? He was going to be done for Saturday regardless because of how hot he got, and you might as well let him finish the game and get the job done because the worst thing could have happened is you put in the Braza band, he gives up a couple players on runners on base, and then Diaz got to come in anyways. So, because he was hot, they were expecting him to come in because it was a safe situation. They gave us a little bit of cushion with Lindor, but at the end of the day, we were going to lose him for Saturday regardless, and so I have no issue with Mendoza going with Diaz in that game.
And not on either. I think that it was a good spot for him. He's getting the workload that he wanted to get, and we've seen how much it pays off. So why sacrifice that for just the prospect us not of us needing him later in the inning? I think that just speaks volumes to just how much Carlos Mendoza trusts his bullpen, putting them in a position to win, and saying tomorrow we have enough reliable pitchers to get us to that point because he saved Budo in this game, and Budo was able to get us into that next game. But more on the bats, I love JD Martinez in that six hole, man. I think he's been a spark plug down there, extending that lineup and doing what he can to provide some power all the way in that six hole. So he broke in 2 runs in this one, and Jesse Winker got it all started with his double in the second inning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Him down in that lineup, Winker, getting back to being Winker and separating Alonso and Martinez is has actually been, because we've been talking about it, maybe moving McNeil up in the order and stuff like that. But McNeil says he likes to hit in the bottom of the order, and by Winker coming up and starting to produce, he's allowed McNeil to stay at the bottom of the order, and for us to mix and match, right? Iglesias gets to play more because we don't need McNeil to be in there every game because Winker's there, and so it's huge, I think, to lengthen the lineup and to make our lineup tougher.
Yeah, absolutely. And McNeil might be hitting well right now, and I think some people might want to see him more. But we've seen just how much depth we have on our bench, and I think McNeil is playing the exact role that what he needs to play, and what we'll see him play for the rest of his Mets tenure. So he needs to get used to it a little bit on playing on that platoon role, and having that variety of defense where he can play the infield and the outfield. But because Iglesias is just here to stay, and he's proven how clutch he can be, and how much his defense is valued in this lineup. I think he even provides a little bit of a spark to Francisco Lindor as well. When they're playing together, he plays really well. But having Jesse Winker being able to man the outfield, even platooning with JD Martinez sometimes has been really good because he's been really hot, and love to see our bats start to wake up a little bit. But like we said, if this lineup is lengthened, then we have a dangerous team going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so let's keep that going because we're going to go right into game two. And game two, Quintana gave us a McGill performance and gave us a heart attack. So you know, he only walked 3 batters, but it felt like he had guys on base the whole game. He only pitched 5 innings, and but again, Winker showed up and kind of blew this game open for us. And so um, we got the job done. And like you mentioned a little bit earlier, because we haven't used Budo came in and gave us the save, right? So we're kind of seeing who's the number 2 in the bullpen right now. Obviously, with Daniel Nunez out, it's going to be Jose Budo, and Budo is going to be the number 2 guy, somebody that we can trust, but also has some command issues as well. So, it's something that at the end of the day, we'll live and die with Diaz because he's a guy, but at least Budo shut the door for us in this game.
Yeah, I think Budo is one of those guys that we've seen overworked a little bit down the stretch because he's been one of our only high leverage guys. So I'm hoping now that Diaz is back and we have some more reliable guys like Phil Maton, Ryan Stanek came up big in this one, and Brosban also, continues to improve. As long as we have these guys that we've acquired continuing to improve, then hopefully that puts a little less stress on Budo because remember he hasn't thrown a lot of he didn't throw a lot of innings that last year, and so he's already passed his innings amount that he pitched last year, and so he's also one of those guys that might be vulnerable to that fatigue, and so but he was able to get the job done. He gave us a little bit of a heart attack too. He kind of started what or he finished what Quintana started in that ninth inning, and had to leave it until the very last batter to get that last out. But we got the job done, and like you said, it started with Winker dinking in some runs. He had an amazing game, another multi-hit game, going 3 for 3, I think, in this one. And he continues to have a stellar outing. He's already, I think, can't remember who said it, but they were like, he's already produced more than Darren Ruff, more than Daniel Vogelbach, and he really has. He's been, I think we've gotten our money's worth so far with what he's been able to provide, because he's probably got it over an 800 OPS, and he's really doing well. And so love to see him continuing to thrive, and also loving to see Alonso break out, man. He's again, he's starting to come into his own, hitting more home runs, more consistently at least. He hasn't gone super hot like we've seen in the past, where he's hitting back to back home runs on back to back days. But I think he has 4 home runs in the last five games, and he's been really good. And so he's got another 30 home run season, which matches Mike Piazza's record. And man, it's just gonna be a hot debate in the offseason if we can pick him up or not.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, he got right with the White Sox and start and continues this right. Um, you know, um, the best pitcher that the White Sox threw out there was Garrett Crochet, who we saw today, and and he was electric for at least 3 innings, but until Lindor got to him. But one thing I want to touch on this game before we get to Crochet is you know the roll of the dice by Mendoza. Mendoza rolling the dice with keeping in Budo because Danny Young was ready to go to pitch, and he said, "No, Budo's got it," and he let Budo. He trusted in him, So this he rolled the dice, right? This works two ways. This could completely backfire, and we'd be talking about a series win, but talking about a series that we could have had, a sweep that we could have had, right? Or it turned out the way it did. You trust in your guys, and you get the sweep, and not only you trust in your guys, and you build that confidence up in Budo and getting the job done. So it's one of those things that you roll the dice. He rolled it, and because even Danny Young, I don't know if you saw this, but they showed a cut, and he was like, "Am I not coming in the game?" So because he was ready to go, and they quickly panned off of him. But this is awesome for Budo's confidence, I believe, to allow him to work through that and get that save.
He's continued to show that trust in his players. He did this with Brazaban, keeping him in a tight game where he just needed him to get the outs. And I think he wanted to save Danny Young a little more because these bullpen arms have been used. And we're gonna get a rest day. We're not gonna get a rest day for another until Thursday, right? And so we still have a thin bullpen that has just been stretched out to the max. And this is one of those where I think if it was any other team, he probably would have put Danny Young in, but because it was the White Sox, and because he trusted his guy with that didn't get hit too hard, and lacked a little bit of control, but he still had it. I think it showed a lot of guts from Mendoza, and it's what I love to see. That's what I've loved about him the most this season, and I hope that he continues to trust his guys in these big spots.
And he will because he's done it before, and so I believe he's going to continue to do it. He's had some questionable calls. We've talked about it this year, but for the most part, he's done a great job. And then we go to game three. Garrett Crochet was as advertised. I hadn't seen him pitch this year. Just I've gone off of what everybody's talked about, but he was electric for 3 innings, and I don't know if it was the the pitch count or them wanting to hold them the innings or the season is getting to him that he lost a little bit of concentration in the fourth where he gave up the home run to Lindor and then the two runners on base and before he was taken out in the fourth. And it's but he was as advertised. Ronnie says in the broadcast, I would have traded for him and signed him. So he pitches for my team because that's how electric he was. And so I imagine in the offseason he's gonna garner a pretty penny.
I'm sure, man. And shout out to Yuki. He says the Mets stomped a mud hole in the White Sox, and that's exactly what we did. We took care of business, and we love to see it. But even though the Mets struck out 16 times in this game, which is absolutely ridiculous, they were able to get the pitch count up of Crochet each and every time. And each of the pitchers that they faced, they were able to work a decent count with these guys. And I think that contributed to him being out of this game a little earlier. I think um, he did really well to. We did really well to get on him. Shout out Francisco Lindor, that MVP type of caliber of play to be able to blast him in that fourth inning,
Fourth inning,
and um, and get us on the board and really startle him because who knows if he would have been cruising and gone five in that game, but because he was able to startle him and Jose Iglesias was able to get on base right after that. We were able to knock him out early. It's not like we did anything after that, but I think it boosted a lot of confidence for Sean Manaea for the rest of this team to continue to curb stomp these White Sox.
yeah, no, for sure, and then we got to talk about it. Manaya's, looking every bit of an ace ever since he's changed his arm angle, and they talked about it in the broadcast. They asked him the question how easy it was to switch arm angles and copy somebody else, because obviously he copied Chris Sale's arm angle, and he said, I've been doing it my whole life. So and it's working right now. So it's awesome to see. And he's been our best pitcher in after the All-Star break.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he says that he feels the most comfortable in that arm angle too. Like he should have been pitching there all along, which is the most important part. Because we talked about, is this the Sean Manaea that we are seeing now? Is he breaking out to his full fledged form? And apparently it is because he feels the most comfortable. This is where he wants to be, and we've seen it past seven starts or so, maybe past nine starts. He's gone 7 innings. And or 6+ innings, which has been amazing. And striking out guys at an extreme clip. He didn't strike as many out here, but he was able to induce some contact, which didn't cost him too much, and go for length. And so Manaea continues to show his ace. We had this argument at the beginning of the year. Where is it going to be Severino or is it going to be Manaea? And so far, Manaea has shown that he has the stuff to push him through later in the season. So awesome stuff from him. We got to see I think Reed Garrett again in this game, and pitching on back-to-back games is we have seen is a problem from some of our pitchers and Reed Garrett especially. But for him to go out there and pitch back-to-back games and give us a scoreless frame is really important, and I think it's a great spot for him. We've seen him in these kind of not as high leverage spots where he's not pitching the closing, he's not pitching the setup, where he pitched the setup here. But I think he needs a little less stress for him to be at full caliber, and I think he did great to pitch on this second full game or second game in a row.
Well, Garrett, I still believe that part of Garrett's issues were that he was being overworked, right? Because we didn't have Maton in the up back there. We didn't have Stanek. Stanek hasn't pitched a lot in the last 2 weeks, but mainly Maton. We used Brazaban a lot. He kind of blew up. Brazaban got blown up a week ago. And because of the injury, he stayed up. But at the end of the day, he's been pitching a lot, and so Budo, Ottavino getting some shots. So at the end of the day, we're getting a lot of guys. We're spreading the love, right? And because not only are there more guys in the bullpen, but our starting pitching goes deep, right? Between Severino, Peterson, and Manaya, we're going between 6 and 7 innings, right? And so that helps the bullpen a lot, right? So that helps not being overused when you're starting pitching can go deep.
Yeah, no, I agree, and this is what we need to continue to see. We saw the inverse of it, where we had to use 3, 4 guys to finish off the games with the McGill and Katana start, and we see what it should be and what it can be with this rotation, where we have our starters go 7 innings and just 2 guys finish off the game. That's so crucial for our bullpen to be stretched out on these long periods of time, because we're going down the stretch where we need everybody to contribute. This is crunch time. We're all watching the scoreboards, watching if these other teams are losing. But if we continue to win, then we might not have to worry about it. So and it starts with these guys being able to stretch out their starts. So great stuff from him. But we saw Pablo Reyes in this game too. Pablo Reyes was used in a spot where we're going to see him a lot. We thought it was going to be Luis Angel in those spots, but Pablo Reyes showed us why. He got called up instead. He was great on the base paths. That Marte hit might not have looked like a double, or it might not have screamed a run from first base, but he was able to score all the way from first from his stellar base running skills. And I think it's a great spot that Mendy used him in here, because if it was JD Martinez, he would have only been standing on third. And who knows if we would have gotten that security run. So great to see Pablo Reyes. Hope that we see him in more spots like this.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And so we close out this game and take care of business. And we'll talk more about Pablo Reyes with the September call ups. And so want to keep this segment short, but we still got to talk about it. Any concerns?
Yeah, obviously it's the strikeouts, man. We can't strike out 16 times and expect to not talk about it. Obviously, they
34 times for the series.
that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable against the White Sox. We struck out less against the Diamondbacks, who have a better pen and starting pitchers, and to strike out 34 times is not a good sign. I understand we have a lot of power hitters in this lineup, but it's still unacceptable for us to strike out at that amount. And it's not going to win us many games like it did today. We can't expect our pitching to keep us afloat like it did. We need to get back to July baseball where we were just putting the ball in play and good things were happening. And for us to strike out 34 times in this series is just disgusting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially in this game, Crochet only pitched 3 1/3, and so it wasn't like he was in there for the whole game. He pitched 3 1/3, so that means for the rest of the game, we struck out basically half the strikeouts were after Crochet was out. So it's one of those things that we need to we can't keep continue to do that. If we expect to make any kind of run, these strikeouts have to be toned down a little bit at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it starts with the top of the lineup. I know that Francisco Lindor has been playing a great deal of baseball, but he's been striking out when he's not putting the ball in play. And I think he gets in his own way sometimes when he swings at some of these balls that are out of the strike zone. And I know he's trying to make things happen. So I'm not going to complain about him too much. But we have guys like Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, JD Martinez, Francisco Alvarez has just been in a rut. But those are all power hitters. They're all trying to hit for power. I know Francisco Alvarez hasn't hit for power this year, which is a little bit concerning. Hopefully, this is just a sophomore slump and not something that we see consistently in the future. But I hope that he gets out of this rut, and I think that he will. But those are all power hitters that strike out a lot, and I hope that they can figure out how to get on base a little more. At least Mark Vientos doesn't strike out, or he puts the ball in play. It's either he strikes out or he puts the ball in play. There's no in between, it seems. But I think that just happens when you naturally put 4 or 5 power hitters in a lineup and expect them to bop, but sometimes they don't always bop.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and going on, Yuki's top three concerns are strikeouts, the bullpen, and McGill Blackburn. But McGill Blackburn, I think Blackburn will be back. Which I think they kind of talked about it in the broadcast a little bit. When Blackburn comes back, I think that maybe McGill might go to the pen. You know what I mean? Because and we'll talk more about that because of the guy they brought up in the pen. We'll talk more about that, later on in the podcast after we do the reviewing and all that stuff. But I think there's a plan for McGill going forward. We just are gonna have to wait a little bit to see it, and the pen, you know, we got a couple quality guys. From what I heard, Nunez might just do the minimum and be in the out of in the IL for the minimum, and so because they talked about him feeling well, and the bullpen, the concern is Diaz going to keep it up, right? Because at the end of the day, this bullpen lives and dies with Diaz. As long as the starters can go deep and Diaz can close it out, I think the bullpen will be fine. But my biggest concern is your number one concern, Yuki, and that's the strikeouts, because that's you're uncompetitive when you're striking out.
Yeah, I think the bullpen will be okay. I think as long as we continue to rotate these guys, as long as we're not overworking them, because that's been their biggest concern going down the or for the whole majority of the year is that they've been overworked and they've been fatigued. They get hurt. This is what happened with Reed Garrett, with Daniel Nunez, with Drew Smith even when he was healthy, and so. As long as we don't overwork them, I think we can see a consistency, and that means getting Edwin Diaz, because Edwin Diaz, like you said, is the centerpiece of this bullpen. That means getting him out more. That means getting him out more consistently. We can't see 3 day stretch where he's not pitching because obviously that's been a struggle for him, and that might not always be the case because last game or his last two starts where he blew some saves, it was 2 days in a row. But I think if you continue to put him out there, give him consistent reps, he can work on his stuff, fine tune his stuff. Because remember, he's still trying to get back into his form from missing a whole season last year. And I know it's late in the year, and it might be too late to say that, but I still believe it because this is late in the year, and he didn't get the pitch last year.
Yeah,
But I think McGill kind of just pitched himself out of the conversation. It all depends on if Alex Young or Huascar Brazaban does well. If they pitch worse than McGill, then we could see McGill come back. But if they pitch well enough to keep McGill out of people's mouths, then McGill might have just pitched himself out of the rotation or bullpen for the time being.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And so let's get to the who's right part of the podcast. And for the hitters, Winker kind of stole the show this series, and hopefully he continues to make the run. But Winker was the star of the series, and Manaya. What else can you say? Manaya's closing it out. He's doing the thing, and for them, we said.
Andrew Benintendi, yeah,
Benatendi. I drew a blank on his name. Benatendi. He gave us a scare in game two, and for the most part, and one of the players that I like, Luis Robert, seems like he doesn't want to be there right now. Disappointing to see that, but because he's an awesome player when he's on. But he looks like he's done, and he's ready to be traded in the off season.
it's all one of those things that we saw last year, where players affected by his surroundings, and when you're having one of the worst seasons in MLB history, you're bound to play bad along with your team, and things aren't going to go your way ever. I hope for his sake that he gets traded this offseason to a team that's contending because we've seen how much it's helped Cease a little bit too, and some other guys that have been traded away. And I don't know how Eric Fetty is doing over in St. Louis, but Um, when guys get put on winning clubs, then they tend to thrive a little better. But Andrew Benintendi is on that major contract, so he had to be a Mets killer. I don't know why we didn't take him. Nicky Lopez, like Yuki's pick. I must have been mistaken, Yuki. I'm sorry for giving you misinformation last time, but he also didn't do anything well. Andrew Benintendi really stole the show for them, and was able to produce a couple of their runs. But like we said, this White Sox offense was atrocious, and we saw why they're as bad as they are. And it was great to see, like we said, Mania pitching well, and Jesse Winker really break out. Like we said, he's playing to the trade value where he was what he was traded for. I think you made it a little bit worth it. If he does nothing else, well, I'm not going to say that, but he really has started to play really well. And so, love to see him breaking out, and let's hope that he continues to get some consistent playing time because I think that's the key.
Yeah. So, and you took it with Mania, the only guy that was shouted out by either of us. So you took that series. So let's preview the Sox series real quick. The game of the series will be tomorrow. Bello and Severino. Bello's having a decent season, and Severino obviously is. And on Tuesday we got Crawford and Peterson. Crawford is hit or miss, but when he's on, he's on. So and then on Wednesday, McGill's pitching for his life against Tanner Houck. And so should be a series, tough series because Boston's still tough, but we need to get that series W out of this one.
Yeah, I think we did what we needed to do to say we just need the series W. We got the sweep on the White Sox, and now with the Red Sox, we just need to get the series W. This is every series matters at this point of the year. So we got to go take care of a good baseball team that is also fighting for a playoff position. They're a little further out, but they still have hope. Like just like some of these teams that are scrapping and clawing their way back in. They have a good scrappy team. Jaron Duran is having a spectacular season, and even I think Ron might have even said that he's having a better season than Lindor statistically, which is crazy to say because Lindor has had a crazy season. But that third game is going to be really tough to watch if McGill doesn't have this stuff because Tanner Houck is a really good pitcher and can really sweep these Mets team up. And so let's take care of business in these first two games. We have Severino and Peterson pitching these first two games. So as long as we take care of business in these first two games, I think the Mets fans can breathe a little bit going into that third one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's get into it. Let's get into the Mets standout. And unfortunately, none of us can pick Mania because he's not pitching in this series. So I guess it's unfortunate for me because I'm going first. But I'm gonna go with I'm gonna keep the lefty magic. I'm gonna go with Peterson.
Yeah, no, Peterson has obviously been the second best pitcher on this team with his consistency. So that's a good pick by you. And I'll go unorthodox, man. Give me McGill. Give me Tyler McGill. I think that's gonna, like you said, he's pitching for his life, and we've seen him pitch a no hitter with the Mets before. He's got the stuff to do really well. He calmed down a little bit. He just has to get that control down. So as long as he has that control down, I think it's going to be a good start for him to go out there and take care of business in that third game, which could be a very crucial game.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I'm hoping that you're right and you're gambling just like Mendoza did with Budo. I like it, and I hope it comes true. So let's go. Let's hope it comes true. And so, who's your hitting standout?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pete Alonso again. Pete Alonso, I thought was going to break out a little more, but I think he is going to carry this team to some wins because my brother pointed out yesterday. You just get a couple of guys on base for him, and he puts a blast out there. you're up by a couple of runs, and that's going to be real crucial in a game in games like this, where it could be um, some high scoring games because, like we said, they have a really good team, and those first two pitches that they're going to put out might give up some runs, so it might be a shootout, but Pete Alonso might play a decent part in that.
Yeah, no, I like it. Hopefully he's broken out. Hopefully, because hey, if he stunk all year, and he hasn't stunk, he just hasn't had a Pete Alonso season like we're used to. Um, and September is when he just goes hot. September and October, is when he goes hot. We'll take it. We're going to take it. So let's hope that rings true, and let's go for it. And I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Winker. I'm gonna go with the hot bat. I think Winker is finally getting comfortable. A lot of people were saying that he's been a guy that feels like he's been there all year, and so let's hope that's the case, right? And So I'm gonna go with Winker. And as far as the Mets killer, Yuki has Lindor, Sevy. He's going with Sevy. That matchup is gonna be awesome to see tomorrow, and a Mets killer as Yoshida. But I'm gonna go with as the Mets killer. I'm gonna go with Duran.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been their best player this year. He's really sparked that offense, and so can see him uh, being a real spark plug for them. But give me Rafi Devers. I love Masataka Yoshida. I got him on my fantasy, and he was really exciting as a rookie last year. Um, but I think he's cooled off a little bit. That would have been my pick because I love how electric he is and how he can play the outfield. But Rafi Devers is, one of the staple third basemen in the league, up there with J Ram, and so I think that him and J Ram probably are the best third basemen in the league, and so give me Rafi Devers. I think he's been playing a little more DH lately, which lets him focus on his hitting, and so I think he can have a good series himself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we just named three guys between Yuki, you, and I. So this lineup is tough. This is going to be a tough matchup because, like you said, they're still fighting. They have an outside shot, but they're still fighting, and it's a tough team. So we need that series W, and take that series W. So now that we previewed and stuff like that, let's talk September call ups, right? We all thought it was going to be Acuna, and it turned out to be Pablo Reyes. And at the end of the day, you know, all we wanted was speed, right? And he provides that. And the difference between Acuna and Reyes is that Pablo's okay not playing, right? Acuna, if we want him to be a player for the future, we want him to keep playing. If he was going to come up, he wasn't going to play, right? This isn't a team that had a spot for him. We didn't have a spot for Gilbert, and we don't have a spot for Acuna now that McNeil is back, right? So at the end of the day, we want the young guys to continue playing, and Pablo's a guy that provides the speed, provides the infield depth if we need it, which I don't foresee. But is a guy that doesn't mind. Well, I won't say doesn't mind, but it's a guy that's okay riding the bench.
Yeah, no, I think this is the perfect move. I just don't think that any Mets fan was expecting it because Pablo Reyes wasn't on our radar, which makes it a little more, um, you know, gut punching because we all wanted to see the exciting Luis Angel Acuna. But I think, like you said, he needs to develop a little more. He's hitting really well down in AAA. We have a real good AAA team right now. I know they might not have been playing the best stretch of baseball, uh, mostly due to their pitching, but their hitters like Drew Gilbert has been on fire. Luke Ritter was one of those other guys that they could have considered, but they really value the base running a lot more, and we're going to see him a lot more in situations like we did today. And so I think it's going to be exciting to see him in those spots for guys like JD Martinez, Jesse Winker, guys that can't run as well. And, he plays good defense. Honestly, he has a better average than Acuna does this year. So if he does come up to bat, then there's more, uh, uh, based on the numbers this year, he's more valuable. Because he's a 30-year-old guy, that's not as exciting as the shiny new toy, Louis Angel.
Yeah.
We're just not as excited about it. But great move by David Stearns. And Stearns we trust, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, it's a guy that doesn't, you don't mind riding the bench, right? And because Acuna was here. If he was going to come up, he was going to sit, and Pablo gets to ride the bench and come in, like you said, in a game like today, running for Martinez and giving us that insurance run, and that's what exactly it played out, how what we wanted, right? Because we wanted speed, and it played out the way we wanted. And here's the thing, you know, um, he doesn't have to be the just the September call up for the whole September. Ronnie was talking about it. Things could change, right? The roster doesn't have to stay the same the whole September, and once the minor league season is done in a few weeks, who knows? Maybe we'll see either an Acuna or Gilbert once the league is done, and they get up here and get a little bit of taste of the majors. So we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but at the end of the day, those things can change.
Absolutely, and the same thing goes with the arms too. Like we just talked about, our arms might be overworked at some point, so it could be a good spot where we send guys like Alex Young, Danny Young, Brazoban, all these guys that have options down and up, so that they get some rest down in the minor leagues, and we can bring up some fresh arms. So I love this Alex Young call up too, because it gives us another lefty in the bullpen, and doesn't put all the pressure on Danny Young to be our only lefty and get those big outs. And when he was up here, remind you, he was pretty decent. He only lost his job because I can't remember who was coming back at the time, but he had the option to be sent down, and that's the only reason that he was sent down. But he was pitching well when he was here, and so I think he'll be utilized great. And if we see any of these other guys struggle, then it could just be one of those things where they're sent down and up until October baseball comes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it was either Garrett or Nunez why Young was sent down. I can't remember exactly which guy it was, but it was one of those two guys. And that's the thing. That's why we mentioned earlier that the whole McGill thing could work itself out, because McGill can go to the bullpen and be that long guy, and for the rest of the season we see a Budo pitch on back to back days, or just one inning at a time, and be that lockdown bullpen arm that we need him to be, and McGill becomes that long guy, and we don't have to worry about Budo going a couple of innings, and so that's a possibility once Blackburn comes back.
Yeah, and remind you guys too. Christian Scott might be on the move too. He started throwing off the mound, and Kodai Senga started playing catch. So these are all guys that could be on the roster soon, where these other guys might be moved around and sent down a little more. And so this bullpen I don't think is going to look the same once playoff time comes. But the goal is to just get there. We just gotta do everything that we can to get there, and these September call ups definitely help us get into that position.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like we mentioned, Gilbert continues to be hot down there. Acuna, is still doing better. Since he's actually doing better since Gilbert came back. So I don't know if that's they coincide, or that's just coincidence. But you love to see it. Jonah Tong got promoted to Binghamton. So things are moving in the minor leagues.
Yeah, no, and it's frustrating to see because I've been paying attention to this AAA team a lot. It's frustrating to see how how much our pitching has struggled at that level. But I was reminded that that the league that they're in is pretty tough, and so it might be one of those things that they just need to call these guys up for some big league exposure so that they can get their feet wet a little bit, so they're not just derailed by this tough league that they're put in because guys like Dom Hamill, Mike Vassell, um, you know, um, uh, Brandon Sproat have not been doing well so far, and even Blake Tidwell I don't think has even recorded a win yet, and so these are all guys that are struggling. It's been frustrating to see, but maybe those are other guys that we can see utilized down the stretch if push comes to shove, and just so that they get out of that minor league kind of rut that they're in.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't foresee those guys being used just because of what you mentioned earlier about Christian Scott. I think he'll be the first guy to actually go into the bullpen. I don't see him going into the rotation this late, but I could see him going into the bullpen, maybe replacing Brazelban or Stanek, and him going into that bullpen. There's a lot of moving parts still in September. As quick as it goes, it's going to be a long month because we're going to be living and dying on every game. But we're going to end it there. Before we get out of here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Like this video, and on replay, give us your comments. Let us know how you're feeling. The good vibes keep rolling. And Victor, any last words?
Nah, this is my favorite kind of baseball. I think we've been playing September baseball for about 3 weeks now, and it's just been exciting stuff. Like you said, we live and die on it. So when we get these frustrating losses, it's gut punching. But when we get these wins, it feels really good. So let's continue to get these wins. Let's rack them up and catch these Braves or these Padres because man, I don't like either of those teams. So let's. Oh, nice. So the Braves are blowing it. At the time of recording this, Yuki has updated us with
They
with
haven't blown
the
it yet.
score,
Chill.
but this is what happened in Game One, right? And so, but love this kind of baseball. It's all exciting. We've been playing all year for this kind of baseball, and just excited to see these Mets team playing for something now. We didn't get this last year, and I really missed it.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're playing. We said last week the playoffs start now, and I I'm hoping that we're playing the rest of September and into October, like playoff baseball. All right, guys. Until Thursday, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.